All right. So the first signal of the future is the boom hypersonic. And this is something that will allow us to go from San Francisco to Tokyo in 6 hours. It'll allow us to go from New York to London in 3 hours. So, what does it mean for the future of work? Well, it's fundamentally going to change the way that we approach meeting up in person. And I know that you heard from my colleagues that we may have fewer, the days are gone when we would get on a plane and then just go for a meeting. And in fact, I would say that this is fundamentally going to change things in addition to other transportation signals like hyperloops and that kind of thing. And although it seems far-fetched, in fact, this year United ordered 15 of these planes. And I know that we're really concerned about the carbon offsets of flying, but these planes will be net zero carbon aircraft with 100% sustainable fuel. So another signal of the future, which is very much about the future of work, is Emerge.io. It's an LA company that has pioneered ultrasound sensor tech. So you might have seen today that Facebook had put out some information on haptic gloves, these big, bulky gloves. Well, actually, Emerge has pioneered this where you don't have to wear gloves, and they're bringing touch into the virtual realm. So it's already being used in VR games, but I see, as a working mother of three, a beautiful future for us to be able to connect using touch, either in VR or AR or in the metaverse. And finally, because I live in Asia, we have a future limited only by imagination and our ability to cooperate. This is, in fact, not Mars. This is the Mars base in the Gobi Desert, which is a simulator for young people and tourists in China. And the interesting thing is that it has been a success, and there are a lot of young people really interested in going into space and planetary sciences. In fact, Beijing's aerospace control engineers are an average age of 30, which is interesting when you compare it to NASA in the US, which has an average age of about 50. So those are some of the signals of the future, but I think that I feel optimistic. So as the 17th century Japanese poet and samurai, Mizuda Masahide said, "The barn's burnt down, but now I can see the moon." So what does it mean for us in the future of work? Well, one thing that I've seen in the last year is that we're finally investing in unearthed needs. They were there before, but now we're paying attention. One of those things is mental wellness, and this is prioritized, personalized, tech-enabled. There's a company in Asia called Neuron Health that uses AI, and it goes in to help companies. Their latest company was a manufacturing company in China to really understand what the needs of people are before they do interventions, and are pioneering ideas like chatbots, which are becoming ever more prevalent. The second is networks of support and ecosystems for resilience and adaptability. So I see this in terms of people coming together for personal resilience and support, but also in terms of the way that we think about our organizations. So we've left the cult of efficiency, and we're starting to build in a little bit more resilience and redundancy in terms of the flexibility we offer people on how they work, the kind of personalized benefits, and really getting a better sense of what people need. And part of that is also building the capacity of managers to have those conversations. And finally, creative destruction, which is breaking bad habits and mindsets. Like we can only do this in person, or, if somebody is at home, then they're probably not working. In terms of the ecosystems, we have new ecosystems to support individuals to collaborate, and I'm very excited about this. One of the big trends is the power of one, and that is the fact that I can be sitting in my living room and with the rise in creator economy, tech-enabled, can have a geographically dispersed business. And I don't necessarily need an office, and I don't necessarily need to be part of a company. So it is more about your personal brand than it is necessarily about working for a big brand. Alongside of that is, of course, data ownership, which is increasingly portable, and things like portable credentials that allow us to move around a lot more and be verified outside of our companies. The second big trend is liquid super teams, and this is seen as it's seen in Hollywood and Bollywood. It's seen in Olympic teams. It is the projectization of work where we come together to do something important with a specific goal and a specific timeline, and then we may step apart. And that's requiring higher levels of trust and a better sense of developing fast trust. And of course, a great example of this is the decentralized autonomous organizations built on the blockchain, which is a really interesting development that you'll see more of. And of course, there's the platforms and algorithms. So many really based on the dating algorithms that fueled Bumble and Match and all of those. These are now being used in schools as well as companies to figure out how they can put together a team with different credentials, but also different characteristics. Who are the classmates or your teammates that you will work best with based on the algorithm? And finally, Office 3.0 is moving to Experience 3.0 to nurture people and ideas. And this is all around belonging, so socializing and serendipity. And this used to very much, in fact, I think that maybe even 6 months ago, I would say this still said Office 3.0, but that has already changed. And people are starting to think that you don't need proximity for some of these kind of gatherings anymore. Maybe we can do it in the metaverse at some point. The second one is growth, which is usually work-related programming, apprenticeship, and gamified L&D. And this has traditionally been done in an office because we have a bad time trying to figure out what people do that's leading them to be a success. So it's sometimes easier to just mirror and watch people. And then finally, dare we say fun. So a lot of office space that is being kept is being turned into things like maker labs, audio visual studios, and screening rooms. So I think that the technology is always what we talk about, but the important thing is that technology always changes, but understanding humans and behavior is immutable, and it is worth investing in. So some of the future skills that people are trying to invest in, and really companies are investing in order to foster resilience, which is leading to innovation, is one, cultural intelligence. I'm American, I live in Asia, I've worked all over the world. And the ability, as remote work becomes prevalent, to work with people in different cultures is gaining more premium. Of course, cognitive diversity as well, being able to work with many people that think differently, that have different experiences. I would say, I know that Mark doesn't want to talk about leaders, and I happen to agree with him, even though I teach leadership at a business school. This idea that leaders can foster psychological safety and trust is still something that somebody needs to be accountable for. Is that going to go by the wayside as we all move into DAOs and Discord? Maybe so. But I do think that, that everybody needs to think about how they can foster that. One is self-management. Certainly, we all have to figure out how we can set our own boundaries and collaborate more. And finally, listening, feedback, and interpersonal relations are being really imperative for us to manage ourselves and each other and collaborate in the future. So what does this look like when it works? It looks like us as humans not necessarily pursuing profit only, as we heard regarding stakeholder communications, but really work as something that can fulfill our deep human needs as well. And when people are at work and they can feel like they belong, they feel like they're relevant, and they feel safe, then they can achieve extraordinary things. So, no matter who our colleagues are, I think that belonging, relevance, and safety have been what everyone has always wanted. And now, as we go towards a future where everything is changing, where we might work with robots like Sophia, the humanoid robot from Hanson Robotics, we really are having to double down on the things that make us most human. And I'm excited to have a great panel discussion, and also for you to hear the next session from Michael Jenkins, which talks a lot about how we can do this in a way that will be really make things easier between us and make work phenomenally successful and make our work lives really satisfying as well. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Diana. That's fascinating, stimulating, and concerning all at the same time. A future where we have, I guess, the metaverse running most of our lives. I mean, what you've said is not news to many of us who are thinking about the future, but I think it might be news to an awful lot of people in business schools studying or even teaching MBAs. Do you see that business education is keeping up with this world of work? I know you personally are, but I think you may be atypical. Or do you think business education is doing its bit to predict or plan or prepare managers for the future?
Well, dare I say it, I don't think it is going to be up to business schools to prepare leaders, because business schools themselves are grappling with the fact that things are moving so fast. All schools are. And so I think that there are so many ways we can learn that if you want to keep yourself abreast, if you want to keep relative, there are a million different ways you can do that. And in fact, I would say Future Work Forum, this idea of a guild, this idea of a learning community where we share our expertise across the world and our different aspects, I think that is the future of learning, and that there's much more of working to learn as opposed to, learning, and then flipping over into work. I see there's another question specific to HR professionals and how they specifically develop themselves for the future of work. And I think that's a great question, because there is this, I think, terror that the responsibility for the future of work should fall on the HR leader. And maybe that's like a clever ruse by the CEO who says, well, I don't know what to do, so you do it. But certainly the HR has an amazing opportunity, because they are, the place that people are looking to. And I think in this sort of chaotic and very complex world we live in, that culture is a big lever. And that the thing I'm most excited about in terms of the future of work is an inclusive future of work. And I do feel like HR has an opportunity to be a conversation starter about what our plausible futures are, and to bring people together across silos in the organization, maybe even across organizations, to say, where do we want to take this? Where do we want to go? And bringing the voices in to chart plausible futures, to me, is one of the most exciting things that HR can do.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Diana. I know that we'll revisit that question again when we get to the panel as well. Okay, thank you.